So recently, because of the changes in the definition of wages, people are thinking that it is going to drastically decrease the net salary of the employees. Yeah, that is correct. But there are a few changes with regard to income taxes, which is going to increase your net salary a little bit. I don't say that there will be very significant increase, but it is going to make an impact. So today I'll be discussing about the changes in income tax as well as code and wages. Majorly the changes in the definition of wages, how it is going to increase your net salary. So first let us discuss about the allowances which are going to increase your net salary. Okay, so the allowances on which you are going to get the exemption, tax exemption. First one is meal allowances, which may be in the form of your food coupons, meal pass, or meal bills, or food cards or meal cards, whatever. So as you know, so far the exempted amount was rupees 50 per meal, and in a day 2 meals were allowed. So put together you are getting exemption on 100 rupees per day. So now this has been increased from 50 to 200 rupees per meal. So it is going to make a larger impact on your net salary. So for example, as you can see in this example, earlier the tax exemption what you were getting was maximum around 31,200. Okay, and now the same will increase to 1,24,800 in a financial year. So the difference, the savings what you will be able to do in a year is 93,600. So this is going to be making a large impact on your net salary, annual net salary. Next, the other allowances where you are getting the tax exemption was children education allowances. Okay, so earlier it was 100 rupees per child. Maximum two children were allowed. It was 100 rupees per child per month. Now the same is increased to 3,000 rupees. Okay, so if you have one child, then 3,000 rupees tax exemption you will be able to get in a month. If you are having two children, then 6,000 rupees per month tax exemption you can claim. So put together in a year, earlier you were getting around 2,400 rupees exemption, tax exemption. Now the same is increased to 72,000 per year. So here also the increase amount, the difference is 69,600 rupees. So now let us talk about exemption on the house rent allowances. So as you know, as per the income tax rules, so far there are only 4 cities which are considered as metro cities, and here the HRA amount was considered 50% for the metro cities and 40% for the non-metro cities. Now in the present changes, they have included another few locations as metro cities. They are Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, and Ahmedabad. So, imagine that you are living in Bangalore. So, earlier you were getting 40% of basic salary as HRA. Now you can get 50% of basic as HRA. Let us discuss about the definition of wages under the Code on Wages 2018. So, this definition says wages cannot be less than 50% of the total salary. And house rent allowance, as I said, because Bangalore has become a metro city now, here you can get HRA allowances which can be 50% of basic salary, which used to be 40% earlier. Now you can see in this salary breakup, I have considered 1,75,000 as a total salary. So earlier the structure was 100%. If you consider 100% as total salary, then 40% used to be the basic salary, for example, and 40% of basic used to be HRA and other allowances, meal allowance, children education allowance, and other allowances, etc. etc. Now what happens? 1,75,000 is the total salary, and basic will be minimum 50% of this total salary. Earlier, if it was 40%, now it will be 50%. So 50% of 50% will be your HRA. Earlier, basic used to be less, and on that only 40% was allowed as HRA. Now, for cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Pune, The 50% will be basic salary, and 50% of 50% will be your HRA. So this is going to increase chances of getting more exemption under the heading of HRA. So let us discuss this with one example. As you know, HR exemption will be considered as least of three things. One is actual HRA received per year. Second one is rent paid in excess of 10% of the salary or the basic salary. And another is 50% of the salary. So now least of the above will be exempted from tax. Here in this example, earlier the tax benefit or the exemption what you are able to get was 3,36,000 per year. Now the same will be 4,20,000. So here also I have taken 1,75,000 as the total salary, and monthly rent paid as 50,000 per month, which will be 6 lakh per year. Actual HRA received is 3,36,000, and rent paid in excess of 10% of basic salary will be 5,16,000, and 50% of salary is 3,36,000. So this is the present situation, like for the year 2025-26, before revising the definition of wages. Now what will happen? The actual HRA received per year will increase from 3,36,000 to 4,20,000. Because of this, you will be getting additional benefit of 84,000 per year. So this is because of the changes in definition of wages, and also for few cities like the newly added cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune and Ahmedabad, it is because of the changes in the HRA exemption limit, or the metro cities, the changes in the metro cities. So put together, you can see here, I have given one example for an employee. If his salary is 1,75,000 and if he is having two children, and if he is taking exemption on meal allowances at the rate of 2 meals per day, and he works for 26 days in a month, so meal allowance exemption he will get for 93,600. This is the exemption that he will be getting. Same wise, 69,600 towards children education allowance, and 84,000 he will be saving in terms of HRA. So totally he will be getting tax exemption on 2,47,200 rupees. So actual tax, how it is going to reduce for him, or in other words, how it is going to increase his net salary, wholly depends upon the tax slabs in which he is paying the taxes.